Broadcasting live from somewhere in the Shadow Realm, this is YuGiOh Duel Links Talk. Here's your host, Doug Dimmadoo.
Hey there, and welcome to another episode of YuGiOh Duel Links Talk. Today, we're going to go over a different type of deck that's related to the Generation Next box set. This is the one that just came out. It's a huge box set with a ton of great cards, and people are already building some really interesting decks, and one of which is a Reptile type deck. And this one is a pretty simple one. It's designed for beginners. A lot of the cards are commons and rares, and of course you're going to have one or two, or one ultra rare in this set, and a few super rares. But overall, the core of this deck can be built for pretty cheap and pretty budget friendly. So this one's worth looking into. This deck specifically runs the dual standby skill for this one, and it does run one card in the extra deck, and the extra deck monster is Worm 0, and it's a level, what is this, a level 10 reptile fusion with requiring two or more reptile type worm monsters. For each fusion material monster with a different name used to fusion summon this card, it gains 500 attack and also gains these effects. Two or more. Once per turn, you could select one reptile type monster in your graveyard and special summon it in face down defense position. Four or more. You can remove from play one reptile type monster from your graveyard to send one monster on the field to the graveyard. Six or more. Once per turn, you could draw one card. So yeah, there's a whole lot of different effects based off of this card, and you could definitely make this fusion play happen. So, what are we going to look at first? We're going to start with the ultra rare Evil Dragon Ananta. It is the level 8 reptile. This card cannot be normal summon or set. This card cannot be special summoned except by removing from play all reptile type monsters from your side of the field and graveyard. This card's attack and defense are each equal to the number of monsters you removed times 600. During each of your end phases, destroy one card on the field. So, you're going to have 3 copies of Worm Carteros. It's the level 4 reptile foot monster, 1200 attack, 500 defense. When this card is flipped, add one level 4 or lower reptile type worm monster from your deck to your hand. So this is just another good searcher card. This will get you set up for potentially a fusion play. The next card you have is Worm how do you say that? Jedelkips? Boy, I may have butchered that one. It's a reptile flip monster with 1200 attack and 0 defense. When it's flipped, when this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard this turn, special summon it from the graveyard in face-up defense position. So it keeps another card back on the field, potentially for a tribute play, or most likely for a fusion play. Then you got Worm Aerokin. It's a level 6 reptile, 2400 attack, 1200 defense. This card cannot be special summoned. Once per turn, select one face-up reptile type worm monster on the field and change it to face-down defense position. So yeah, you're able to make that one happen. There's just one copy of that card in this one as well. Same thing with the Worm Jedelkips card as well. That one is only one copy. But then you got 2 copies of Worm Tentacles. It's a level 4 reptile, 1700 attack, 700 defense. Once per turn, you can remove from play one reptile type worm monster in your graveyard to allow this card to attack twice during the same battle phase. Now that could very sneakily come in handy. It's a really good effect, but you're basically going to be using this one as material for your Evil Dragon Ananta or for your fusion monster. Next card we have here is Worm Solid. It's a level 4 reptile with an effect. It's got 1000 attack, 1600 defense. This card gains 100 defense for each reptile type worm monster in your graveyard. If your opponent takes battle damage from attacking this card, at the end of the damage step, select one spell or trap card your opponent controls and destroy it. So this is pretty good, especially as you send more worm reptile monsters to your graveyard. This card, maybe if there's 5 or so cards in the graveyard, you're talking about a 2100 defense monster. Your opponent may not be expecting it, take some battle damage, and then lose a spell or trap card in the process. So that's really, really good. Then you have Worm Demickles. It's a level 4 reptile, 1700 attack, 1400 defense. When you flip this card gains 300 attack and defense. So, I don't know, this is pretty good. You could stall a turn, potentially flip it into attack position, and boom, it's got 2000 attack. Yeah, not a bad flip monster. Then you have Worm Ugly. Level 1 reptile, 100 attack, 100 defense. When you tribute summon a reptile-type worm monster by tributing this card, you can special summon this card from your graveyard to your opponent's side of the field in face-up attack position. This combo could come real well if you use Worm Ugly to tribute over for Worm Aerokin, and then you could attack into your Worm Ugly on your opponent's side of the field, and your opponent will take 2,300 life points of damage just from that play. So, really solid. Then this deck runs one copy of the super rare Fusion Recycling Plant. It's a field spell card where once per turn, you can discard one card and add one polymerization from your deck or graveyard to your hand. Once per turn, during the end phase, you can target one monster in your graveyard that was used as a fusion material for a fusion summon this turn, and add it to your hand. So that works out really well with this deck. Maybe you want to send some of your reptiles to the graveyard for a potential play. Sometimes after you fuse, you may want a monster back in your hand, so you could possibly do another fusion play, and also being able to recycle that polymerization in your graveyard, because this deck only runs one copy of polymerization. And you fusion summon one fusion monster from your hand, from your extra deck, using monsters from your hand or field as fusion materials. So that card you could acquire at the card trader. And then you have Molting Escape. It's an equip spell card where you equip only to a reptile-type monster. Once per turn, if the equipped monster would be destroyed by battle, it is not destroyed. The equipped monster gains 300 attack at the end of the damage step each time this effect is applied. So this card is a very sneaky good card for this whole deck because all the monsters here are reptiles. It keeps them from being destroyed once per turn, and also or at least by battle, destroyed once per turn, but then also gets more of an attack boost, so pretty good. Next card we have here is Worm Call. It's a continuous spell card where once per turn, if your opponent controls a monster and you control no monsters, you can special summon one reptile-type worm monster from your hand in face-down defense position. So this could set yourself up for some pretty good plays, especially with maybe your Worm Solid or maybe your Worm Dimicles. There's just a few different plays you could use with Worm Call, and yeah, can't complain about that one. Next card, as you would expect, is the super rare Damage Equals Reptile. It's a continuous trap card where once per turn, when you take battle damage from a battle involving a reptile-type monster, you can special summon one reptile-type monster from your deck with attack less than or equal to the battle damage you took. So, just another really good card to have, especially if this is an entirely reptile deck. This card just makes sense to have. Then the last card we have here is Snake Whistle. It's a common trap card where you activate only when a reptile-type monster you control is destroyed. Special summon one level 4 or lower reptile-type monster from your deck. So, yeah, I'm assuming you're going to be dealing with a lot of destruction. This is just another way to get more reptiles onto the field, back off the field, and hopefully eventually get your Evil Dragon and Anta really powerful, or potentially get yourself into that fusion play for Worm Zero. Yeah, you're able to make some really good plays happen with this deck. Dual Standby is good because at least you'll start with one additional card in your hand, and hopefully you'll have a lot of what you need to make this strategy go about. But I don't know, I think this is going to be a pretty fun one to mess around with. Now, do I think this is meta at all? Absolutely not. But this is an interesting set of cards that is extremely budget friendly, and give it a shot next time you're trying things out. Maybe if you're starting in rookie, bronze, or silver, try this deck out and see how it does, and make your own tweaks to it, and maybe you could get a little bit more competitive. But this is kind of just the bare bones beginner setup. I will try and remember to post the screenshot of this deck list on Twitter or on the YouTube channel or something along those lines. I know I've been getting a few requests to do that, and I just keep on forgetting. So, you know, I'm really sharp right now. Really, the brain's working. It might just be because it's allergy season for me, and things are really clouding my brain. But anyway, yeah, this deck overall, really liking it. I think this one could be a lot of fun to play, and it's just cool when we start getting new cards within these new giant box sets, seeing what kind of budget-friendly, maybe not so budget-friendly decks we're able to build. So this one, very budget-friendly. I recommend giving this one a shot if you end up going into Generation Next and getting a bunch of packs. May very well be worth picking this up. But anyway, that's kind of it for today's episode. If there's anything that you want to add, or if you have your own reptile deck build that you think is super awesome and extremely powerful, I would love to see it and possibly duel against you in Duel Links. Feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at YuGiOh Deck Talk. It's all one word, at YuGiOh Deck Talk, and possibly bring it up in an upcoming podcast episode. But anyway, that's it for today's episode. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Take care.